Welcome to New Manager Media. Manage right from the start. Today, I am so thrilled and honored to have my friend Jen Miramontes with us today. Jen is a cancer fitness guru, and she'll give you all the background on that. And we met just over a year ago and started being each other's accountability partner because we have things we have to do every day as leaders of our own organizations. She has her business, I have mine. And we can kind of get lost in the weeds, lost in the mud. So we've had this accountability relationship for the last year, sending each other text messages most every day. Occasionally one of us misses, but typically we're on point. And we see great things happening in our businesses and in our lives because we maintain constant contact, constant communication. And I thought it would be really awesome to have Jen on the podcast talking about cancer, how to survive cancer, how to support other people in your life that have cancer. And she was willing to give a few of her clients to work with us today and give us some information. So, Jen, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, what you have going on, and we'll get into a little deeper conversation.
Sounds good. I'm so happy to be on the show. Thank you. What an honor. And yes, those of you that maybe don't know either of us, I will tell you this also with the accountability. Sometimes it comes in at 5 a.m. and sometimes it comes in the night before at 11 p.m. So neither of us have like set office hours, right? We just kind of, it's whatever's working for us. So
it's random.
Yeah, exactly. But it's been amazing. So yes, so again, my name is Jen Miramontes, and I'm the founder of Cancer Champion Fitness. And Cancer Champion Fitness is an online program for people with cancer. It's nutrition, fitness, and it also the mindset and the community that people battling cancer need. It's a safe place and with people that are all experts in working with people with cancer. And as Jennifer mentioned, I have a cancer exercise specialty. And I'll go back and say I also am a personal trainer and I have a medical exercise specialty. So personal trainers, I don't mean this in a negative way in any way, but personal trainers are a dime a dozen. It's not very hard to become a personal trainer. It's hard to become a good personal trainer, but there you can find them everywhere. Cancer exercise specialists, there are in total actually 500, but 500 in the entire world. So you think about
in the world,
500. And it's just a shame for one thing, because currently 1 in 4 people will get cancer. So there's a very large population of people with cancer that need people like us that can help them. Additionally, the latest research, I just saw this yesterday, people born after 1960 will have a 1 in 2 chance of getting cancer. So those of us that don't currently have cancer need to be thinking what we can do to not get cancer. And so that's part of my, not only supporting people currently battling cancer or people that are cancer survivors, but also helping people not get cancer.
Wow. Okay. So like 1 in 2. So the majority of the people listening to this podcast episode were born on or after 1960. And we have a 50-50 chance that we're going to get cancer of some sort.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Sobering news.
Oh, lump in my throat now. Okay, yeah. So moving on from that, what do we do to survive it? I mean, I often hear of fighting cancer, beating cancer. I've heard there are, psychological effects to having those kind of words being in the vocabulary. And I love the fact that your business is Cancer Champions.
Right.
I'm sure that was very strategic and intentional.
Right. Very thought out, because it's twofold, right? I am their cancer champion. I am going to champion them through this journey in every way I possibly can. And then also you just become your own champion, and people, you're in there. And I agree with you, Jennifer, that it's difficult to find the right words because everybody hears them differently. And some people, when you say, they're fighting cancer, then, they're like, but if I lose the fight, am I now a loser? Or, and so it is, and everybody hears words differently and uses words differently. And so we just have to be careful. Everyone is a survivor. If you've had cancer, you are, even if you're in the middle, you are obviously a survivor. So I like to say cancer survivors, but I often will say cancer fighters and survivors. And so to answer your question, I mean, it's not as simple as just, do A, B, and C, drink more water, get more greens, and, walk daily and you won't get cancer. I wish it was that simple. But it can be fairly simple too. There are some steps, and, nothing is sure. I mean, I can't say my mother, the reason that I started Cancer Champion Fitness, my mother was a health nut her entire life, always exercised, wasn't a smoker, barely drank, and got esophageal cancer terminally. So, does it mean that we will most definitely not get cancer because we do these steps that I'm going to recommend? Not necessarily, but because she lived this healthy lifestyle, her diagnosis normally would have been about a 6-month, it was terminal, probably around on average 3 to 6 months from diagnosis, given the amount of the size of the tumor in her throat. And she lived 3 years. So it may not be that you don't get cancer, but it certainly can be, a way to survive cancer better and longer.
My father was diagnosed with kidney cancer, and there's no cure for kidney cancer, but it's kind of a slow growing one, which is nice. And we went down to MD Anderson. I'm in Oklahoma, and that's the closest, major cancer center. And one of my sisters was just hammering the doctor, how long is he going to live? What are the odds? What are we looking at? And she just, a dog with a bone. She was not going to let it go till that doctor gave her actual odds. And finally he said, there's a 20% chance that he will live 5 years. But that is completely tied into his diet, if he exercises, what his mindset is, what his spirituality is, what his family dynamic and setup is. So you can't just say you have this, you're going to die in 3 to 6 months, right? Because so much more goes into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the story of your mom? Because I just love this story every time, on how you got into researching cancer to become a champion and a cancer fitness expert.
Yeah. So it's, like I said, the whole, the purpose behind what I do is motivated by my mother, who is not with us anymore. But so I was always in fitness. I was a trainer. I knew a lot about how to train people to get stronger and have good balance and all these other, wonderful attributes that I could offer them. I thought that was so wonderful. My mother was diagnosed with cancer, and we were at her oncologist appointment. So similar to, it sounds like you and your sister, I would go to my mom's appointments, and, the diagnosis wasn't great. He couldn't do surgery. The only thing, because it was too dangerous, the tumor was too big, but he could offer chemo and radiation. And so he was kind of describing that. And we were sitting in the office, and he was charting something. And I kind of looked over and I said, Mom, do you have any like bucket list items, anything that you feel like you want to get done, before the inevitable? And she said, well, she said to him, I'd like to tour Europe. Like, I'd like to go all around Europe. There's a lot of places I haven't been. And he said, I can't have you do that. It's too far. It's, I don't know, treatment wise, how we can work around that. I can't, I'm sorry. And she said, okay. And then she looked over at me and she said, well, then I'd like to hike in and out of the Grand Canyon. And I'm
random
looking at me like, you could make this happen. And I'm thinking to myself, And I look over at the oncologist and he goes, I mean, that's in the States. I mean, it's, I, I mean, if you think you can make it happen, if you think you can get her there, then I will approve it. But I need to know that she's healthy enough to go. So you've got from now until she's through chemo and radiation, but you can work with her during that time if you're comfortable. And so I'm like, okay, I've got to make this happen. I have to make this happen. I can do this. I know I can do this. So I went immediately, and the diagnosis was in 2000. I'm sorry, it was in 1998, 1997, 98. And so it wasn't, WebMD and all of that wasn't quite as readily available as it is now. And, but I went back in all my books and I'm like trying to find what you can do, how you can train somebody with cancer. And there wasn't a lot available. So I just trial by error. I'm like, Mom, we're going to try stuff. And, I don't know what the chemo's doing to your bone. So we need to like build bone density. I do know that much. I don't know what the radiation is going to do. And so we just figured it out. And the biggest problem that I was having was, how do you nourish somebody? Like, how do you get nutrients into somebody that has a apple-sized tumor in their throat? I mean, I can't, getting proteins and all the things that she needs in there is going to be difficult. So I called on my friend, the nutritionist, and she would put together these 600 calorie nutrient dense smoothies that my mom could consume, because what they were recommending was like Boost or Ensure or one of those like milkshakey, full of chemicals and sugar and all the things that are not good for cancer, are not good for people with cancer. They're great for cancer because they feed cancer. Sugar feeds cancer. So anyway, I'm like, okay, we got this. We've got our training regime in. I can nourish you. I would have her carry my daughter, Emma, who at the time was about 4. She would carry her on her back. So she'd get used to wearing a backpack and we'd go for little hikes. And we did it. She did it. She hiked down. I get a little bit teary every single time because she did it. I mean, she set out to do this. She had a goal. And the doctor definitely thought it was insane, but wasn't going to say no to her. And we got her down to the bottom of the canyon. We hiked around at the bottom. We stayed a couple nights and she got herself back out of that canyon. And it was one of the happiest moments in my entire lifetime. And so from there, how do you stop, right? The momentum was there. I'm like, people all around us have cancer. We got to keep this going. So that's
and then was there a pretty good gap between 98 to 2000 ish when you found the cancer fitness certification, or what is it called? I mean,
cancer exercise specialist.
I know you do things to become an expert.
Yeah, a massive gap. So the only thing so back then you could become a trainer. That wasn't, that was, doable. And you could get like a spin certification and, they didn't even have bar back then, but you could get like little certifications. But then the medical exercise specialist was the next one that I did discover. And that was in probably 1990. Let me think. So I'm thinking, no, 2005, I think, was about when I found the medical exercise specialty, 2008, somewhere in that range. It took a long time to get that one. So then, and I was like, okay, so you learned a little bit about working with people with cancer, not a tremendous amount, but it was helpful. And I had done a ton of research on my own. So I was able to kind of incorporate all of that, just talking to oncologists, and radiation oncologists and oncology surgeons. And then they came out, CETI came out with a cancer exercise specialist. I heard about it. And you have to have 1,000 hours of working with people with cancer. And you go through the process of, all the modules, and you learn how to become a cancer exercise specialist. And it's great. It's an amazing program, but very difficult, which is probably why there aren't enough specialists out there. So yeah, so I got the cancer exercise specialty and started working more and more with people with cancer. And that was about 2010 that I really got kind of good. That became my passion. Like, this is where I can make a big difference.
This is where I need to be. So then, what is your business now? Your Cancer Champion Fitness. What does that look like? How does it work? What is that?
So okay, so the way it started, and I think that all of us have had this little person in their ear at one point that motivates us to do something that's maybe beyond what we feel like we can do. And so my best friend had breast cancer, and I was working with her always. And the cancer metastasized to her bones and her brain. And she'd been my client and my best friend for several years at that point. And I would go into the infusion center with her, and where they get their chemo infused. And I would talk to all the different people with cancer and give them little recommendations, like, you do realize, like, if you can just get yourself, get at least an extra serving of dark leafy greens every day, what a difference that's going to make. If you could just drink your body weight in fluid ounces, like, I know fluid ounces of water, or if you can just, while you're sitting here in the infusion room, do some leg lifts, get movement, because guess what? Walk before you walk in to get your infusion, get your blood flow going, because then the chemotherapy courses through your body better. These are just little tiny tips. I would just get so excited because I could help them. So her last week of her life, I was with her pretty much the entire week. My son and I kind of camped out at their house, and she called me into her room and she said, "I'm going to task you with one thing. You need to figure out how you can support more than the 15 clients you have with cancer. You need to figure out a way to, millions of people have cancer. You got to figure out how you can serve." And so that was daunting, and I didn't quite know where to begin with that, because I'm super good at the in-person, like, I got that down and no problem. I never did videos. To this day, I'm terrible about social media and, getting on there and being like, "Hey, get excited, let's do this video." That wasn't my thing. But obviously that's the one way you can, that's a beautiful thing about technology, right? That is what's one of the greatest things. I kind of, kick and scream my way against it. But the beautiful thing is it does allow us, just like you get to do, Jennifer, reach out and support people that need help with managing. I, had this opportunity to reach out and help people, that are maybe in Australia or anywhere in the world, and have a community and a place where they could find a recipe, or they could tell their friends when they're like, "Hey, can we bring you a meal?" Maybe lasagna is not really feeling great because you're nauseous. They can go to the anti-nausea recipes and say, "Hey, could you make this for me? I can do this 10-minute workout. I've just had surgery. I could go here and I know what to do post-surgery." So but the program, Cancer Champion Fitness, came from this need to support millions of people with cancer.
And a friend of mine was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of lymphoma. End of July, 1st of August, maybe mid-August of 2020. And when the doctor ran all the tests, they said the cancer cells were duplicating at 100%. So within a 24-hour period, it was 100% more than it was before. And most cancers are substantially slower than that. And the doctor just said, "We are going to throw everything we can at you, but we have no idea what the outcome is going to be because this is extremely aggressive." So then they do a few more tests. Okay, well, so now it's in other organs. Now it's in his spine. Now it's in his spinal fluid. I mean, like, he was completely encased in cancer. And I reached out to you. I don't think he ever followed up, which is fine, because his fitness level was incredible because he does wood floors. So he walks like some days 18, 20,000 steps in a day, sanding floors and pushing the big sanding equipment. So the first round of chemo, you're in the hospital 5 solid days because it's, the infusions are in person. You can't even just go and come home. You're in the hospital for 5 days. So he does all his rounds of chemo. He gets to the end of it, and there is a gentleman down the hall who is 15, 20 years younger, a bodybuilder type, so in really good shape. And they said, he is not doing as well as you are. Well, in the end, that gentleman was diagnosed with COVID one day and was dead the next, literally at 38 years old. My friend's in his 50s, and he is 100% cancer free, his entire body. And I don't know that the nutrition piece of his life, because we do go out to dinner regularly, I don't know that the nutrition was necessarily there, but the spirituality and the prayers, because they were coming in from everywhere, the exercise constantly, and having a wonderful support system around him, as well as amazing doctors and nurses taking care of him in science and technology, like you say. But like the one piece that most people don't have is that exercise, because I don't feel good. If you only knew how bad I felt. And I love that, go on a walk around the block before you go in for the infusion treatment, right? Because then it will work more efficiently. So the three main things on what someone with cancer should do or know is add at least one more serving of green leafy vegetables every day. Drink your body weight in water every day, and get your blood flowing before, during, and after your treatments each time. So that's really big. Yeah. So as leaders out there and managers, because that's, my target market, especially if 1 in 4 get cancer, and then our age group, it's going to be 50%, 1 in 2. Yeah. I think it's really important for them to understand what happens with cancer and what they can do for someone else. So Jen, I'll be sure to get all the technical piece and put in the show notes, but what is your website? Like, I know somebody who has cancer. What can I do for them today? I think you have a program where I can buy it for them as a gift.
That's exactly right. And I think that's one of the greatest things that we have is that we can gift, because I would venture to guess every single person that is listening today knows somebody or has had cancer. Either you know somebody close to you, or you have had, like your story right there. I have yet to meet somebody who says, I have never met anyone, I don't know anyone that I love that has had cancer. It's very unlikely. So we've also always, I would venture to guess also that you've grappled with, what can I do? You find out that somebody you love has cancer. What can you possibly do for them? Because that's what we want as humans. We want to give, we want to help, we want to do something, we want to fix it. We can't fix it, but we can gift them with something, like it's something to give them some hope, because hope is what people need, and they need that mindset. When they have hope, when you have hope, you have that mindset of, okay, I'm going to do everything I can. Maybe I won't survive it, but at the time that I'm here, I'm going to make the best of it. And so, yes, we have a gifting program. It's called Become Somebody's Champion. And the website is, it's Cancer Champion, www.cancerchampion.com. And I'm sorry, cancerchampionfitness.com. I should know my own website. So cancerchampionfitness.com. And you would see, like, if somebody logs into the site, that's just kind of a landing page, and it describes what the membership is. But at the very top of it is where you can become somebody's champion.
I love that, Jen, because like you say, everybody is going to come in contact with it one way or the other. My father died of kidney cancer. My mom had a stroke and lived 11 years, but in the end, it was oral cancer that took her out very quickly, because we didn't even know she had it. Like, literally, she had a spot one week, she was dead the next, like super fast. One of my best friend's dads died of cancer. My friend just survived cancer. My niece had leukemia at 3.5 years old, and I'm happy to report she's perfect and wonderful and about to be 15. And so you're right. We all are connected to it in some way or the other. And you hear of people who refuse all treatments because somebody 20 years ago didn't survive it. And I love the fact that you may not survive it and live to be 100, but you can survive well enough to have a good life in the meantime until it is your day, right? I love that.
Yeah. And I do think, Jen, I love that this is going out to the managers out there in the world because, as I just said, we all know somebody, and probably a manager is going to have an employee that they manage that's going to get that diagnosis. And so, as a manager, to be confident and be able to be like, I can support this this employee of mine. I can be there and support them. It doesn't have to be my program, but just to have the knowledge of there is something out there. There is a community out there, whether they just join our Facebook page and just have a place where they can say, hey, I am so nauseous. I can't keep anything down. Any suggestions? And yes, we have this great tea. Try it out. It's delicious. Whatever it is, like as a manager, to not be afraid to offer help and guidance as much as they can to an employee that's been diagnosed with this, because most likely a manager will come across this.
And today, more than ever, the expectations of a manager from other people are high. And this is just a fabulous thing to have available to share with people. So, what is the Facebook group? Because that's someplace easily accessed.
Absolutely. It's also Cancer Champion Fitness, and that's the Instagram.
Easy.
Yes, and that is a great, because recipes come up, and we post fitness tips, we post nutrition tips, like cancer fighting foods. So it is a great resource that doesn't cost obviously anything to be a part of.
I just love this, Jen. And I love you and what you're doing and your passion. And one of my key takeaways, in addition to like even not having cancer, we probably need to add more green leafy vegetables, drink more water, and increase our blood flow. So we'll just leave that out there for the world to know. But you are a lifelong learner. And whether that was your intent when your mother got that diagnosis or before, it has just continued as lifelong learning. And as leaders, as managers, because you're managing a team, right? Your team might be somewhat remote because it's virtual. You're still having to manage them, what they do, what they get done. And you're an amazing leader in your field and also leading your team so that they are inspired to get done what needs to get done. But we all need to be a lifelong learner and embrace that. I mean, like every day, if we're not growing, we're dying. So keep moving forward and keep doing what we have to do. Thank you so much for your time and all this amazing information. And hopefully this message will just spread like wildfire.
Wow. And thank you so much for having me on your show. I love it. I get to see you. That's the best part.
I know, right? We get to hang out together. All right, Jen, I love you and I love what you're doing. And I really look forward to hearing from you tomorrow, what you got done on your list of 3 things.
You will.
and to the audience, I'm Jennifer Takagi with New Manager Media, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Thanks.